Russian man like inside the dark, call me Bill Snatcher. Just the brother for the rapture. I hang glide, holding on strong, hard to capture. Extravagant, resurrect the track and it's militant. And I react like a gauntlet and start killing. It's manifesting. The God's work like appliances, dealing in my sleep.
Yo, what's going on, everybody? It's your boy Naruto Explain here, bringing you guys another discussion for Boruto Naruto Next Generations manga chapter 70. And today it's time for us to discuss a major elephant in the room that has been foreshadowed for the last few manga volumes and has been set up in the manga now that Code's limiters have been taken off. The 5 Kage have to be assembled. The last option to dealing with Code needs to be discussed. However, I'm not referring to assemble in the sense that this is an RPG game situation where you have a party of 5 that has no chance of defeating the major floor boss because the floor boss is at level 40 and the party of 5 is at level 10. That's not what I'm saying. That's not what I mean. It's time for the 5 Kage to assemble for another conference to discuss what to do about Code, but also about Kawaki. And at this moment, there's a strong chance that Naruto's going to catch some major flack here before the Kage discuss options, whether it be sending a small team to deal with Code or whether it be the 5 Kage themselves actually assembling, which is going to be a worst case scenario, and I'm going to discuss that later on in the video. Now, to explain why, we have to look at what we do know so far. In the Boruto manga, as well as in Kishimoto's manga Naruto Gaiden, which takes place as a continuation of the Naruto manga for Naruto manga chapter 701 up to 710, we've seen the 5 Kage assemble at various times. Each time it was a threat that had something to do with the Otsutsuki. In Naruto Gaiden, the 5 Kage, Sasuke, Sakura, and Shikamaru all gathered to discuss Sasuke's evidence that there were threats that existed beyond Kaguya and that they all needed to begin preparing to face those threats. In the Versus Momoshiki arc, there was a brief assembly before the rescue mission to save Naruto was carried out. In the Vessel arc, we had the 5 Kage once again assemble specifically to deal with Kawaki because he was rightfully viewed as being a threat who, even while he was exhausted, reached the status of an S rank threat level according to Konohamaru in the manga. But Naruto vouched for Kawaki, stating that he would keep guard over him personally, despite knowing that the enemy was actually going to come for him. The 5 Kage once again gathered after the threat of Ishiki, but this time it was to discuss the execution of Boruto, with Naruto being pushed into a corner by his peers to do what needed to be done before it was too late, with Gar having the harshest words of Naruto during that time. They also pressured Naruto about his decision to trust Amato, which is something that Shikamaru was not a fan of as well. Now we have the final breadcrumbs that this 5 Kage summit has the potential to be a heated one and that there are going to be some major decisions made here, because Shikamaru stated after Boruto died that this was a situation that was unavoidable when it came to hiding it from the other Kage and that they would have to be alerted before the intel could be shared. Code popped up, took Amato, got his limiters removed, which is something that's going into the 5 Kage summit. Shikamaru is going to advise Naruto to be fully prepared to operate under that assumption, because Shikamaru stated to Kawaki, who knows, maybe he's already dead, when he was referring to Amato, which means that he expected Amato to remove Code's limiters and be killed right away. Naruto is going to run the risk of catching some flack here. While we as the audience know his intentions, the other Kage, they won't care about that. It's a black and white issue. Decisions were made by a leader and there have been consequences because of those decisions. Naruto was told to kill Boruto before Momoshiki could resurrect. Momoshiki took over Boruto's consciousness and Kawaki had to kill Boruto. While Boruto is no longer in danger of Momoshiki's resurrection, using his body, Momoshiki can still hijack Boruto's consciousness under the right circumstances, which means that Boruto is still a threat to the Kage, though not as big of a threat before, but still a Kage level threat that Naruto is going to have to use a lot of his political capital to avoid having anything happening to his own son. Kawaki now has the Karma Seal back and his power level is above Naruto, which means that he's now stronger than any of the 5 Kage individual, and some people have even argued that he might be stronger than the 5 Kage as a collective. Before Naruto gave his impassioned plea to have the Kage essentially treat Kawaki like a glorified guest in Naruto's village that Naruto was going to be responsible for, there were questions as to whether or not Kawaki was too dangerous. Kawaki being willing to disobey Naruto's orders and being stronger than Naruto himself. it's going to be a point of contention by some of the Kage. Kawaki could be viewed as being too much of a loose cannon to be kept around. Naruto's decision to have Amato brought into the village is also going to be questioned. Gar or the Tsuchikage Kurotsuki are going to point out that it is highly likely that Amato might have plotted the whole scenario to have Code's limiters move, though we as the audience, we have been led to believe that it's going to be the opposite. The Kage don't have that information that we have as readers, and the Kage are likely going to look at a worst case scenario, which is something that Shikamaru did when he called out Amato for everything going according to Amato's plan. No Amato in Konoha means that Kawaki wouldn't have gotten the Karma Seal back, which means he could have been a problem that could have been contained. Naruto's going to catch some flack for that. The Kage are also going to be brought up to speed about Ada and the fact that Ada's ability makes being in the same room with her a non-starter, and it makes her even more dangerous than Code in some aspects. They're also going to be brought up to speed about Damon, who Shikamaru did see, and he did see the ability to reflect Kawaki's Chakra Blast and knock out somebody as powerful as Kawaki. That's going to be 3 threat levels that need to be dealt with Code likely having the biggest target painted on his back, which, speaking of Code, the Kage are likely going to operate under the assumption that Code has his limiters taken off, which means that Code is now stronger than Jigen, who demolished Naruto and Sasuke during their one and only fight. Neither of them have the Biju Chakra or the Rinnegan respectively that made them be able to fight against Jigen and at least to a certain extent not get dog walked, even though technically they did get dog walked. It's a grim situation and all options gonna have to be on the table here, but not before Naruto has his feet held to the fire. Naruto meant well by his decisions. I think we all can agree on that, but the path to hell is paved with good intentions. The reality is that a lot of what happened directly happened under the watch of the Hokage. There's gonna be some shoulder of blame to be placed here. However, once that's over, the Kage are gonna have to come up with a solution. In my opinion, the last options, i.e. the break glass in case of emergency options, will be placed on the table. Option 1 has a few variables to it, which will be to dispatch Sasuke and Boruto and Kawaki to deal with Code, potentially even having Naruto and Delta tagging along as well. Amato was modifying Delta's body, which means that she likely got some upgrades to make her stronger, especially since Amato would have been smart enough to plan for a worst case scenario where Delta would have to fight Code without his limiters. However, he didn't anticipate Ada and Damon being around, which could be a key here. Boruto and Kawaki would make for assets that are deadly required because they will be immune to Ada's ability, which is something Shikamaru knows, and that makes them indispensable for this plan, which means that Sasuke is either going to be fighting alone against Code, he's going to be fighting with Boruto or Kawaki against Code, or he's going to have Naruto and Delta right there with them to take on Code without his limiters, and that's going to be a struggle regardless of how you pair Sasuke up. In that scenario, it might end up with Sasuke falling in battle, likely getting folded up by Damon before he sits down to watch Paw Patrol with his juice box and animal crackers. The 5 Kage might object to sending Boruto there because if Code gets his hands on Boruto, then the entire world's over because Boruto becomes a dog treat for the Ten Tails. Now, option number 2 is that the 5 Kage, they assemble to take on Code, but there's a problem with this beyond that of actual power. If the Kage were to convene on Code's location right now, it leaves their villages unprotected. Code has claw marks at each of their villages. They can't keep people posted at them. If they did, the problem is that you're gonna have random ninja 879345 going against Code. No Kage is going to want to leave their village unattended unless they're absolutely certain they can find a way to deal with the threat level that Code poses. This 5 Kage summit is going to be a good one. This is probably going to be the most dire situation we've seen in a Kage summit since Sasuke crashed one, where the 5 Kage were finally accepting how big of a threat the Akatsuki had become to capture what at the time they assumed was 8 Biju, but was in actuality 7 Biju. Tensions were running hot because the Raikage was thinking Killer B was dead and he was pointing fingers at the other Kage for not taking care of business. However, I really want to know from you guys, how do you guys think that the 5 Kage summit is about to go? Which of these last options do you think is going to be used, or do you think that something else qualifies as the last option for the 5 Kage? Let me know down in the comment section below, but as always guys, like anything I had to say. Don't forget to comment, rate, subscribe, and share. Thank you so much for watching to the end. Have an awesome day, guys.